Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Bank Marketing Show. We're super glad to have you with us today. I'm Chris Bates, one of our hosts.
I'm Dan Navalis. Nice to have you back with us again.
That's right. Glad to have everybody with us.
Yeah, if you keep coming back, we'll keep recording. So
there you go. And on that note, well into our fourth year here, and we have watched the audience continue to climb and grow and be more engaging with us as well, even reaching out to us. So thank you to all of you. And if you haven't done so, please take just a moment to subscribe to the show. And that helps build the following, which kind of utilizes the algorithms well to get it out there even more and allows us to just pour into more folks like you. So
yeah,
thanks for taking a second to do that.
Yeah, we'll wait. No,
right.
I'm just kidding. Yeah. Well, so, to get into it, last time we talked about, kind of where AI is today and what you should be doing. And, we did a webinar a few weeks ago with Kadince, and you can go to bankmarketingshow.com and watch the full webinar. So we're going to kind of overlap a little with that, but get a little deeper into some of the topics. But today we want to talk about where AI is going and kind of how that, just, in general for the technology, but really what it means for bank marketing and bank marketers, and what this could mean for your career, no matter where you are in your career, right? AI has already disrupted a ton of stuff in the last couple of years, and it's going to continue to disrupt stuff. Mm-hmm. The webinar started with these like doom and gloom headlines of 90% of all jobs are going to be burned and not exist anymore, and we think the reality is a little bit more subtle of what's going to happen. And so we just want to talk about where it's going and what to be thinking about for your career. And frankly, even if you're not thinking about staying in bank marketing for the whole thing, I think a lot of these lessons will apply anywhere you go as AI is, infiltrating into every aspect of society.
Yeah. Well, and for your bank and where you are and growing your career, even in the current seat where you are and what that's looking like in the foreseeable future, also is, there's no doubt, agreed with you, Dan, that the doom and gloom and it's going to replace, all marketing and all of that is we don't see that in the foreseeable future and don't feel that way. Now, should you be on the front of the wave rather than sitting on the sidelines watching? Absolutely. And, what are some ways to do that? And, being a part of that forward moving, Dan, you and I have talked about this. Looking into the future, we're at a tremendous time of opportunity. We're at a tremendous time of opportunity for community banks. Mm-hmm. And telling their story, getting their messaging out there, utilization of AI and getting even ahead of the slower moving, regional national banks and those types of things, and how you can do that individually as well, as I think speaks into your point. So those are some of the things we're going to touch on today. And, but it's becoming that AI-enabled person that becomes a leader, whether it's in title or not, but becomes a leader and one that others in your organization rely on. Mm-hmm. That's the opportunity that I think, Dan, don't you, that so many bank marketers and bank leaders have at this point?
Yeah. Yeah, right. It's not that AI is going to replace all of our jobs, right? It's going to make it possible to do more with fewer people. It's going to be an organization by organization decision to say, like, do we lay people off or do we not hire as much? Or do we, do we keep the same team but try to do more with it and compete with bigger banks? Like, that is going to vary by bank to bank. But what will be true across all of it is, like, are you an AI-enabled employee or not? Mm-hmm. Right? And I think almost any role, maybe not like compliance types roles might be a little further behind the curve. There's lots of AI compliance tools coming, like Kadince, that we did the webinar with. It's going to affect roles differently. But the underlying theme that we see is, like the people that become the AI-enabled employee or banker are going to be the ones that will advance faster, right? Mm-hmm. Or be relied on. And if you can use those tools in your daily job teach others about them, you're going to be seen as, hey, this person is who we need to help.
Yeah.
The bank.
Well, and even to have more effective outcomes in what it is that your role is. And to give a couple of concrete examples of those, and to kind of jump into this here is thinking about like time shift. So if AI is enabling you to do things faster, more efficiently, whether it's a workflow process or whether it's spitting out a blog and doing it correctly through the prompt formula that we gave you in the last episode, or doing things well, then what that does is it gives you the ability to shift some time into human interaction things. Right. So a community bank needs to be in the community. So if this allows you to be out more, and being more representative and doing things to support organizations or partnerships or, any of that, or even focusing on strategy and the things that still at this point really take the human brain or the physical presence, of a human to do. Thinking of it that way is what makes you that enabled person, Dan, that you were referring to. And sometimes that's by, you being the one that's building your portfolio of AI things, prompts and GPTs and workflow processes and agents and all of these things, because the more that you're building those, then you become that person that is the relied upon and the looked to, and have more time to connect with your frontline staff to hear what questions other people are asking.
Yeah.
That's good marketing.
Yeah. Well, and AI does such a good job of like collecting all that stuff. Right. And so as you talk to people, you do things like transcribe the meeting, record the meeting, and you build, an AI like GPT that has all those transcripts, and you're building a little knowledge base for yourself to make you, give you tools to do your job better. And then you can make that available to others and for them to do their jobs better. And we talked in the webinar about the interaction, because Kadince is a compliance company, like we talked about a bit about the interaction between marketing and compliance, in that use AI as a compliance first pass. But as a marketer, you take your blog, take your digital messaging, and if your normal workflow is to make some creative, send it to compliance for review, and then launch it, or whatever that workflow is, you can do a first pass in AI first and have it flag, like tell it the regulation. If you listen to the last episode, right, use the prompting formula we talked about, tell it the regulations you want it to look at and the specifics, and it will flag it and say like, oh, you should think about this, or put this logo.
Yeah, that's a UDAP issue. That's a whatever. And you fix it. Yeah, before you send it off to compliance. There you go.
Yeah, and then you've fixed all that stuff. Now, still send it to compliance, still send it to the real compliance human, for sure. But you may have just saved them a lot of time, right? And you may have made their review job a lot easier, because stuff that they normally would have had to flag, AI already flagged it.
Yeah.
Right. And so, like, again, big disclaimer, like don't skip the compliance person.
Right.
But just as an example of, like, if you're using AI, you're making other people's jobs easier, and that will get noticed for your career. And people will say, oh, I worked with Bob and he, made my job a lot easier because he knows how to use these tools.
There you go. So Dan, in the webinar that we did, we kind of beginning to look future facing here as, how you're going to grow your bank and or your career and all of that. And we kind of looking at it, short term, what we really can see is right in front of the windshield, further out, and then a little bit of prognosticating. So maybe we can talk about those three areas a bit in being future facing here.
Yeah. Well, so we talked last time in the last podcast episode about what you should be doing today, right? So starting from kind of that point, the good prompting formulas, and getting more specific, knowing the 20% you need to add on top of AI's 80%. I don't know. I think over the next year, and I'm really just talking kind of 12 months, and we try to make these episodes timeless, but because AI moves so fast, like we're in like, when you're listening to this, it's probably end of April, early May, somewhere in there. And in the next 12 months from then, I think we're going to see tools get more specialized, right? It's easier to build stuff. And so that's going to mean that there's going to be more tools and more specific things. So we've got a lot of general like LLM AI tools. We've got like marketing AI tools, but I think we're going to start to see bank marketing AI tools, right? And agencies like yours that are getting smarter with these tools so that you can crank out more output and have it be more aligned with the bank, and some of the lower value stuff gets easier to do, and so we're going to see that kind of continue, and it's going to get easier, right? Like, so as we were talking last episode about using AI for a competitive analysis, but you still have to kind of know the steps of a good competitive analysis and know to ask AI to look for the white space in competitor taglines and things like that. But those kinds of skill barriers are going to lessen.
Yeah.
Right. So if you have a bank marketing tool, it will know the compliant or the competitive analysis process. It'll already know what compliance rules and guidelines to look at, and it'll do that compliance first pass for you. And there it'll make it easier. And so it's, again, still not in the near term, in the next year, still, I don't think removing the humans.
Yeah.
But
and tools like we keep mentioning, Cadence's new AI compliance tool that's out there as well. I think that's a great example in that specific category, and it's going to be across a lot of different marketing categories. Dan, I agree. We're going to see more bank specific tools and capabilities. Which is great for everybody, all of you guys as our listeners. That's for sure.
Yeah. So I the headline on the slide I had was like, in the next year, you're doing more marketing with the same resources. So your teams are not at smaller banks. Teams are not necessarily shrinking. Like there's a lot of big companies doing a lot of layoffs that have adapted. Especially the tech companies adapting AI more and doing cost cutting. I think at smaller banks, even 5, 10, 15 branch banks, like not tiny banks, but like the teams are running thin anyway.
Yeah.
And it's probably more the fact that like you just find you don't need to hire that extra marketing person.
There you go.
And you're, like we said last episode, like you're expected to do more. Right.
Yep.
And that's just that pressure is just going to turn up, just be slowly dialed up going forward.
And then I think what we're looking at further out in kind of the 1 to 3 year category, Dan, no doubt is seeing things shifting more from generative to autonomous, so that AI start doing more things for us and actually taking actions. Not reporting is probably a good example that can be really tangible in most of our brains. Is that rather than reporting that is really good and more detailed, more effective, et cetera, rather than that, it's also can make recommendations. So it's looking at outcomes and saying, and by shifting this messaging or this targeting or this spend level, whatever, you can get better outcomes in your clicks and conversions in your digital display campains, or those
and then actually taking the action
and then doing
tools that you're able to set guardrails against. And say you're allowed to take actions within these guardrails.
Yeah,
and have it run right. Think of optimizing your Google Ads campaign. Of like maybe you go in once a week and take out and put in negative keywords for terms you don't want to be associated with. Well, there's going to be AI tools that are like, just describe what you don't want to be associated with, and it'll go automatically do some of that stuff for you.
Yeah.
I think for banking specific, I think we're going to start to see there's a lot of like banking chatbots, right? And I think we're going to start to see things like the chatbots can actually submit applications or actually transfer money.
Yeah.
Or in like wealth management, actually make recommendations of how to move your money, or actually make the money movements for you.
Yeah. Qualification applications, account openings, those types of things.
Yeah. And we're going to start to see a shift of, it feels like less of an application and more of a conversation. So, the bank for KYC, has a set amount of stuff it needs to know about you, but, you don't necessarily have to sit down with a form and fill it all out. You can interact with a chatbot and tell it about yourself, and it will just ask you questions, and it'll ask follow-up questions, and it'll tell you where it's missing information, and things like that. So it's going to start to kind of break down the steps that we have today.
Yeah.
Right. Like AI so far has been about making those steps faster and making it easier to complete them. But what'll start to change in 2-3 years is that the steps will start to be different. We won't have to do the same steps because the AI will get the information without having to ask you or in different ways.
Yeah. Well, and then where it really starts to get big is when we start thinking past that and 3 years out and beyond, and some of the things that we're going to see that are really transformational. And I think, again, referring back to our prior episode, and we were talking about how work changes for marketers and bank leadership and all of that. When we start looking at 3 years and further out under the AI umbrella and what AI impacts, I think how we work is really going to begin to look different. I'm like you. I'm not a doomsayer that I think it's going to replace us. At that point, I would agree wholly, though, that what we do, how we do things is going to look drastically different because it'll begin to do a lot of things autonomously for us. And that's going to even then kind of roll forward from there in what it does.
Yeah. Well, I think in 3+ years, the fundamental kind of interactions that we think of as banking today start to change.
Mm-hmm.
And, today it's like, come to the website, log in online banking, look at your transactions, do transfers, set up bill pay, set up account alerts, like those types of things. Instead of clicking through menus and finding options and changing them, it's more like the bot example. Bots aren't the only way that this will happen, but you can just say, hey, I want to be notified when my account balance hits a certain amount.
Yeah.
And it'll just set up those alerts. So you don't have to, the customer will stop caring about an alert because they don't care about a banking alert. Mm-hmm. Nobody wakes up thinking, I need banking alerts. So you just want to be notified when certain things happen.
Yeah.
And, maybe your core has 10 different types of alerts, but, in the bot scenario, it can get a lot more nuanced and much more specific rules that you couldn't do today because like the filters and the way to set up those rules would just be too confusing in the UI. With a bot, it gets easier. Yeah. And so people might not have to log into online banking in the same way that they do. Mm-hmm. Right. Mm-hmm. They may not have to, download their statements. They can, however many people actually balance their checkbook still, like, you can do some of those things with the AI.
Well, and things will become predictive also. So, if you're a spender and you tend to run out of money before you run out of month, then it's gonna wait. You may want to reconsider this purchase.
You're going to run $1,000 under on cash flow. Do you want a short-term loan? Like there's going to be stuff like that, and that's already sort of starting to happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that means so the way customers bank is going to change. The way you bank and interact with customers is going to continue, has already changed, but it's going to continue to change. Yep. And, just the whole way people find you and open accounts and start interacting with you, the whole system will sort of fundamentally.
Well, and another example is I hear some of the AI prognosticators in this industry talking about too is like credit score just breakdown. That's 3 years out. That's probably not even going to be looked at and analyzed and tracked in the same way that it is now at all. Right. It's going to be more of a behavioral profile. Therefore, you're a good risk or a bad risk.
Yeah.
And so it's going to know your entire financial behavioral patterns and those types of things that, yes, will incorporate what you've paid or been behind and those types of things. But it's not going to be just a solid number like that anymore as a basis for decision and moving forward. That's another example of the kind of things that are just going to be different in the entire arena. And then more specifically to us, Dan, is how marketing, is going to change, and even looking at how the funnel process that we do now and starting with awareness and top line, and then it's 2 or 3 steps, to get to conversions and then, closing. And in a transactional process. And that's really not going to look that same way anymore because of the presence of AI either.
Right. And so, the bottom line is we can't predict exactly where it's going to go, but we know these fundamental things are going to be different.
Mm-hmm.
And we know that if you are not already using AI tools to start doing some of your day-to-day, you're going to be woefully behind the curve in a couple years when these things start to change.
Yeah.
And it's not going to all change at once, right? It's going to be that the smaller community banks are still running the traditional way of banking, but the new way of banking at certain fintechs or bigger banks is just so compelling that it's already hard today to attract younger customers. It's going to get even harder. And so if your bank is learning the tools now and adopting to it now, you're going to be better prepared when you get to that point.
Yeah. Well, Dan, I'm envisioning some of our listeners that may be sitting there going, okay, guys, I get this about, where AI is rolling into the future and all of that. What can I start doing about it now? What are some things that I can actually put my fingers on and do and practice processes? So, Dan, I'm going to do what you did in our prior episode and tell everybody, if you'll reach out to us, go to bankmarketingshow.com and reach out to us and email us. We'll share the presentation deck with you that will have some things, including, Dan, maybe you could talk for a few minutes about, you had kind of closed our webinar with 5 things you can actually do in just a matter of minutes.
Yeah. Let me quick hit these, right?
Yeah.
And we'll, email us for the deck. We're also going we also have the Bank Marketing Minute. That's the companion newsletter to the show. And this is what the Bank Marketing Minute is about. It comes out the day after this podcast is released. So sign up for that if you haven't. So 5 things, right? 1, ask AI about your bank, right? We used to tell people, go Google your bank and see what comes up. Well, now go ask ChatGPT, what's the best bank in my town?
Yep.
What's the best checking account in my town? And see what it says. See if you come up. See who else comes up. See which competitors come up.
Yeah. Yeah. What's the best bank for farmers in this area? Those kind of start asking it all the questions. And you might want to sit down before you do this. Yeah. You can't fix a stiff drink while you're at work, but anyway. So, but it's going to tell you a lot. I love that as a first of several.
Number 2, mediocrity test. So, last episode we talked about generic taglines, right? Take your tagline, take a recent marketing message or campaign or a blog post, and look at it and think about, could I just swap a competitor's logo on this and would it still work? Right? And if so, it's not specific enough, and you need to kind of rethink it. And that's where you can do the competitive analysis stuff, or like have AI challenge you and try to make it more specific.
Good one. Yep.
Number 3, along that same line, like rewrite one page, especially one that did not pass the mediocrity test, but find a product web page or checking account page, right? Give it more nuance about who chooses which types of checking accounts, or instead of just saying basic checking and advanced checking or whatever, say, generally this type of checking account's best for this type of customer, and this is best for this type of customer. Feed that to AI and see what it comes up with. Again, you don't have to publish what it says, but just see what it comes up with and get some different ideas for how to talk about it, instead of like that typical kind of table of different accounts.
Or add some story content, like you said, who it's fitting for this product and service, rather than just your bullet pointed features.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a great practice way to do that. So that's a great number 3.
4, analyze a competitor. So hopefully you've already emailed us by the time you're listening to this for the competitive analysis prompts from the last episode. But do a competitive analysis on one competitor. Ask AI to, whoever that the bank is across the street, or the one that you think about the most often, like ask it to do a market positioning analysis, digital positioning analysis, comparing you to, and see what it comes up with. It's probably going to turn up. It's not going to be everything, but it's probably going to turn up something you hadn't thought of. Or give you some idea for how to improve your homepage. And the last one, compliance test. So we talked about here, right? 1, run a marketing collateral draft through AI and ask it to act like a compliance officer and see what it flags, see what you can change before you even send it off to the compliance team.
Yep. That can be a time saving and a relationship enhancement with your with your compliant folks. Lots of things there. So
and you could do all 5 of these things probably in an hour. right?
Yep.
So block the hour, knock these things off if you haven't tried them, because they're, they'll be kind of eye-opening.
Yeah. Well, good. Well, Dan, this has been great to do a couple of episodes on this now, around AI. And I think we started with kind of taking the pulse, and now we've really talked about where it's going. And
Yep.
along with that, I think we're giving some tools here. So again, we want to encourage everybody to reach out to us. The whole purpose that we do this show is to be of resource and to pour into folks like you that are in the industry and help raise the tide. That's our why. So we've offered some really good things here. Again, go to bankmarketingshow.com. There on the homepage, you can watch the webinar that Dan and I did recently that gives a whole run through on all of this around AI and what's changing. And we're glad to email the deck to you as well. So thanks for continuing to be a great listener. We hope this helps you out a whole lot. Take a second to subscribe to the show, and we look forward to the future with you guys.
Likewise. Thanks, all.
All right. Thanks, Dan.
See ya.
Thanks for joining us. To go deeper or get access to some of the valuable nuggets from today's show, go to bankmarketingshow.com. There you'll find episodes, links to resources, and much more. Be sure to subscribe wherever you find your podcasts. And join us next time.